What if I told you this isn't a rumor and it isn't a movie, it's real? Across the United States, young men have been disappearing late at night quietly. One by one, they leave a bar, a party, a friend's place, and just vanish. There's no struggle, no screaming, no chase, and no witness who can explain it. It's like the night simply swallows them, and the city keeps moving like nothing happened. Days later, the story returns with the same ending, a body found in a river. Officials often rule it an accident, a drowning, a bad decision, case closed, move on.
But investigators kept seeing a detail they didn't want to talk about again and again.
Near almost every recovery site, someone had painted a smiley face like a signature. It always begins the same way, with a normal night, loud music, crowded rooms, and familiar faces everywhere. These were not dangerous men or reckless strangers. They were students, sons, brothers, and close friends. They talked about tomorrow, about classes, work, plans ahead, living lives that felt completely ordinary. Near closing time, they stepped outside, expecting nothing more than a quiet walk home. No one watching them leave imagined this simple goodbye would turn into a permanent disappearance. He was last seen walking calmly in the direction of his apartment, under familiar streets and lights. And somewhere along that quiet walk, the timeline suddenly breaks, without noise or warning. Messages stop arriving, calls go unanswered, and phones that once buzzed constantly fall silent. Morning comes as usual, the city wakes up, but he never arrives home that night. At first, friends tell themselves he probably crashed on someone's couch nearby. But by nightfall, worry grows heavier and fear quietly replaces hope. Eventually, a missing person report is filed, marking the moment concern becomes official. Police begin with the most obvious explanation, treating the case as routine. They suggest he must have fallen into the river, an unfortunate accident, nothing more. But standing by the water, something about the scene feels deeply wrong. There are no witnesses, no clear path, and no obvious place where he entered the river. And there is no logical reason he should have been anywhere near this location. Still, the paperwork is completed, evidence marked, and the process continues forward. Another disappearance is logged, another file added quietly into the system. Then it happens again, and again, with different names and different faces. Different cities, different nights, but disturbingly similar circumstances every time. And once again, the ending is the same, leaving more unanswered questions behind. Different states across the country, different cities, different rivers, different police departments. But no matter where it happened, the story always sounded disturbingly familiar. These were not careless people. Many of them were strong swimmers, confident around water. Yet their bodies were discovered miles away from the places where they were last seen alive. In some autopsy reports, doctors recorded details that didn't make sense and raised disturbing questions. There was no water in their lungs, a detail that turns an accident into something far more disturbing.
Nothing. No footprints, no disturbance in the water. It doesn't make sense.
And no clear explanation for how these men even entered the water in the first place. For a long time, no one questioned it, until one small detail broke the silence. A simple image began appearing again and again near the recovery sites. A yellow smiley face, crudely spray-painted like someone wanted it to be noticed. Other times, it was painted directly onto concrete near the water's edge. Almost always, it was found close to where the bodies were pulled from the river. Police dismissed the markings as meaningless coincidence. They said Smiley was common, random, and completely unrelated to the deaths. But a former detective saw something others refused to acknowledge. He began mapping each case carefully, marking locations across the entire country. As more cases were added, a disturbing pattern slowly started to emerge. The dots didn't scatter randomly. They formed a chilling, deliberate line. That was the moment the question changed from what happened to who. Because patterns like this don't happen by accident. Someone was hunting. The theory that emerged was terrifying, one that slowly took shape as more details came to light, revealing a chilling pattern we hadn't considered. These victims were not just random. They were carefully selected, their movements watched, and their fates sealed long before they knew it. They weren't alone in the crowds. Someone had their eye on them from the shadows, observing every step they took without them ever knowing. Bars, parties, college streets, places they thought were safe, where danger hid quietly in plain sight, unnoticed by everyone around them. Someone waited in those spaces, not rushing, not making a scene, just blending in, watching as the night unfolded. A friendly stranger, a casual offer of help, a ride to the next destination, nothing out of the ordinary, until the trap was set. It seemed harmless, even kind, but some experts believe these victims were subtly drugged, though not enough to completely knock them out. They weren't fully incapacitated, just enough to cloud their judgment, disorient them, and make them vulnerable to whatever came next. Their minds, clouded by whatever they were given, made them weak and unsteady, unable to defend themselves or understand what was happening. Then, when the moment was right, they were taken, led away from safety to wherever their captors had planned to take them. They were held, isolated, and controlled, the trap closing around them, a slow nightmare they had no way of escaping. And then they were placed into the water, carefully, methodically, arranged to appear as though it was a simple accident, just another tragic drowning. If this theory holds, it means the victims weren't alone at all. They weren't the only ones involved in their demise. This suggests there was more than one person responsible, multiple hands orchestrating the deaths, each step planned in advance. Once these men were drugged, taken, and held, the ultimate purpose was clear: to make their deaths appear like just another accident. It was a calculated move, placing them in the water at just the right time and place, creating the illusion of an unfortunate, accidental drowning. The method was terrifying because it was so simple and so effective. It was almost as if no one would notice, no one would question. If the theory is true, then these weren't just random disappearances. These were carefully orchestrated killings, each detail meticulously planned. And each case was added to the list, buried under the weight of routine investigations, each one another faceless victim in the system. But as the bodies started to pile up, a pattern emerged that couldn't be ignored, a pattern no one had connected until it was almost too late. But as the bodies started to pile up, a pattern emerged that couldn't be ignored, a pattern no one had connected until it was almost too late. The pattern began to take shape, and with it came the realization that this wasn't an isolated case. This was the work of more than one killer. No one came forward as a witness. No one saw anything, or at least no one was willing to say anything. CCTV footage always seemed to malfunction, capturing nothing but static and dark shadows. Toxicology reports came back inconsistent, with no clear answers, no common cause to explain the victims' conditions. Different jurisdictions refused to connect the cases, each treating the deaths as isolated incidents. And then something disturbing happened. Detectives who pushed too hard were suddenly removed from the cases. Files were sealed. Information was withheld. The investigation was deliberately slowed. Families who had already suffered so much were warned to stop asking questions. The message was clear: don't dig too deep. Stop asking uncomfortable questions. Everyone who questioned the silence was quietly shut down, one way or another. Everything was designed to protect the truth from coming to light. Even the detectives who were determined to solve this case soon realized they were being silenced. Pressure built from above, and those who dared push further were quietly removed. Everyone involved felt the weight of the silence, like they were being watched. The truth was buried, and those who knew it were forced to remain quiet. Still, there were those who knew that something had to change, even if it meant risking everything. What they found next would haunt them forever. The victims weren't chosen randomly, they were selected for a horrifying reason. The killers weren't just eliminating people, they were hunting for something. The killers were part of a secretive organization, one that had been operating in the shadows for decades. And their twisted plan wasn't just about murder, it was about creating fear, about making people disappear without a trace.
Each victim had a connection to something far more sinister. The murders were a way to test a chilling theory. How easily could an individual be erased from the world without anyone noticing? How far could power stretch to silence the truth? The victims were part of a twisted social experiment. Each one had something valuable to the organization: secrets, money, connections. They were erased so their influence would disappear and the organization could take control. As the cameras captured the final moments of their lives, one fact stood out. These were not random deaths. They were sacrifices, part of a sick ritual to control the world from the shadows. The smiley faces were not just signatures. They were marks of dominance, a symbol of the organization's power. And now, the true horror was about to unfold. Because these murders were just the beginning. Despite the authorities closing in, the organization's reach is endless. Their plan is not over. They are still watching, still hunting. And the worst part, they know everything about you. Because when you're watching and no one sees you, it means you've already won. The horrifying truth is now out there, but the real nightmare is just beginning. The organization is still active, and their influence stretches far beyond what anyone could imagine. The smiley face remains as a symbol of their control, a reminder that the world is being manipulated from the shadows, and no one is safe.